Well, I think it's the true hour of 1 o'clock. We'll call this agenda and priorities meeting of Town Council to order. This 19th day of October, 2020. We have an agenda before us. Are there any items to be added or deleted?
Yes, Your Worship, one in-camera item, land negotiation, MGA 197-2, FOIP 16-1B.
Okay, and I have one piece of correspondence from CP Rail there too that I'll bring on. Nothing critical, but anyways. Would someone like to move that we adopt this agenda as amended?
I so move, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the arena operations update.
I'll have Trish come up to the front, Your Worship and Council. We did send out a media release to Council on Friday just to keep you in the loop. I just thought it'd require maybe just every so often just keep you in the float here of what's going on with the important arena operation. I think maybe Trish even touch base in the pool while you're here. I may start with the arena if you don't mind.
Sure, yep, you bet. So arena is into minor hockey's second week of operation. From their standpoint, I just talked to Bruce this morning. Things are going well. They still haven't heard back from the league with a confirmed start date for their season. Loosely, I believe it's scheduled to start tiering games November 6th, and then their actual season to start end of December, beginning of January. They haven't nailed down a firm date yet, but that's what they're looking at. As far as things happening in and around the arena, it's busy but not too busy. Staff are managing what's happening. We put out notice that we're increasing spectators, so what we've done there is limited it still. We're not open to the general public, so the doors to the facility won't be unlocked other than prior to the game or practice based on the group that's going to be there. Right now it's at 15 minutes. They like it. It's working. The younger kids are coming dressed, which is nice. The reason for that is we're also trying to limit the parents in the dressing rooms, because once the parents are involved in the dressing rooms, it messes with their cohort numbers. So they like to keep those parents outside. So we have a skate tying area set up in the hallway, and then we just actually increased the skate tying area in the lobby just to kind of accommodate some more of those younger kids that have just started. So that's kind of where we're at. There's been some issues around social distancing and masking. We did put out recommendation that if you can't social distance, please wear a mask. From what I've seen in the 3 or 4 times I've been there, it's not happening. People are shoulder to shoulder. There are no masks. We're doing it on our end, and as we walk by, guys, just remember social distance. Minor hockey is also doing the same thing. Bruce, the president of minor hockey, sent out another notice this morning just as a reminder that as we increase those numbers, the social distancing and masking is important. So, any questions?
No.
Yeah, I got Mayor Romaine through to Trish, thanks. I did have a couple of inquiries from some users about if they're going out for fresh air, for a cigarette or whatever, they're not able to get back in. What's the...
So because we don't have the doors open to the public, the messaging that came out from minor hockey was once you're in the building, you're in the building. If you leave, you don't get back in until the next group is coming onto the ice. So it's just to limit the amount of checking that minor hockey has to do, because what they're doing is as each person comes through the door, they're signing in with minor hockey. So whether they're a spectator or a participant, they're signing in doing their COVID tracing. So the town's not doing it, it's the groups that are.
So do you see a way that, is there any way that we can facilitate these people? Do you see a way through it or no?
So just clarification, Trish, you said it's really up to the users. That's kind of
Yeah, so what we're doing is we put the onus onto minor hockey or figure skating or the men's groups to do that checking as that person comes through the door. So once that group is on the ice, the volunteer that's at that table is a parent, so they go watch their kid play. So aside from leaving the doors open and it being a free-for-all, I don't have an answer to the if you need a cigarette during a 1 hour practice and how they get back in. I know the communication's gone out from minor hockey, strongly asking them not to do that, to bring what they need with them, whether it be coffee, diaper bag, do whatever they need to do before they come in. As for a solution, I don't really have one.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yes, Your Worship, through to Trish. Quick question, because I actually went down there once or twice actually, and watched my grandson as the designated parent. So when the door is locked and there's that phone number on the door,
Yep,
who has that phone?
that's the town staff phone. So one of the 3 people that are working will have that phone.
Okay, so just for information, I wasn't smart enough to come on time, so I came literally in time to just miss whatever parent was controlling it. So I phoned the number, and it didn't get answered.
Okay,
And it did go to a message machine of a former bylaw officer.
we found that out this morning when we phoned it and no one answered. So we will rectify that. And they're actually having a meeting at 1 o'clock today regarding
Okay.
the phone and procedures.
And then, I guess, just comments. I did go to Cochrane again this weekend, and it was interesting because I was able to watch 2 of my granddaughters on separate occasions play ringette. And, but it's interesting to see stuff in action. One of the things I noticed that they had done is purchased a whole pile of those hand sanitizer things like what we have here on the little stand in front of they have them on the wall here, there, and everywhere. And they have a few of those ones on stands like near the doors, which seemed like a really good idea. I know you have to fill them, you have to buy the stuff, but it did seem like a good idea, and I saw them used. I went fairly early on Saturday morning, and there were very few people there when I first walked in. And in that area, there wasn't any control. Like there was in one of the other areas around the swimming pool, they had little slips of paper with pens in sanitized and used little buckets, and you theoretically grabbed your piece of paper and filled it out and then put your pen in the right place, hopefully. And so I doubt it was working really well, but I didn't stand there to watch. But where I did go in the arena, they did have a sign on the door that said the maximum capacity of the arena. And they have 3 there. 2 of the little ones that have really almost 0 bleachers. And those 2 were limited to 75 people, and the bigger one was 100. And I don't know where they get those numbers. But again, it's up to you when you walk in to kind of guess maybe how many are there. So it's not real scientific. And then the other thing that I noticed when I first got there, everybody was wearing masks. Everybody. And so I went in and I thought, well, I'm a little bit early, so I'll go sit there was nobody in the stand, the small bleacher, small arena. And so I sat there, and there ended up maybe 6 or 7 people there. And then they started taking their masks off, some of them. Some didn't. So it's so fluid and arbitrary, and you would need, I don't know how you would ever enforce it if you actually, I think all you can do is advise what is prudent, and then hope that the herd will sort of behave. That's kind of what I see. So again, it's a work in progress. I think ours looks really well run. And as we adopt the new procedure that you have, I'm sure we're going to find some new things. Like probably when it's really cold and you get more people coming, you're going to have a lineup that you have to deal with and all that kind of stuff. So lots of stuff to learn, I think, as we go here. Thank you.
You bet.
Sorry for rambling a lot, but I thought it was quite interesting.
And we are working through those with minor hockey as well. Once they get into kind of their game structure, we'll look at extending that time frame just so we don't have those people outside for as long. So potentially looking at the half hour before, half hour after, just to alleviate kind of the team coming from Eckville and then having to wait outside for the extra 15 minutes. So we are looking ahead, kind of working with minor hockey in conjunction with the men's groups that are hopefully starting soon, and kind of playing it by ear as to what's going to work and what's not going to work.
So just a couple other pieces of information. That was drastically different than what I saw 3 weeks ago, or when I made comment that it was not very good down there. And Ringette is separate from the Alberta Hockey, so they do their own thing.
Yep.
And the games they were actually playing, they're 12 people on a team, and they're cohorted with 3 other teams for the next several weeks, or 2 other teams, sorry. And then they take a rest and resume with other teams. The other thing I heard on the weekend, I do not know if it's true, is that the Eagles League has canceled its, so that is true. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and the rest of minor hockey, I think, is still trying to figure out refereeing, all kinds of stuff. They have no idea. Okay. Don't shut up.
Okay, any other questions of Trish? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, sorry, pool update. I tried, I don't like this seat very much. It's a little warm. The pool's going well. Dawn's working on scheduling for post-Christmas. What that means is looking at getting school lessons block scheduled back in. She has had conversations with a couple of the schools. They're looking at booking in school lessons. Again, it's all going to be determined by how things go the next little while, if they continue with those. So everything seems to be working. Numbers are slowly coming up. People are slowly deciding it's winter and maybe they should get back to swimming. So hopefully we keep going in the right direction.
Your worship, through to Trish, do you have any idea like where numbers are at as far as, say, compared to a year ago? Like, are we half capacity, 20%, 30%, or hard to say yet?
I think we're on par with our lane swim and our aquafit. The numbers for aquafit might be down a little bit, but it's the swimming lessons where we're definitely down. One, just because of not being able to offer them when we initially opened, and then the way that they have to offer them. Some parents like it, some parents don't. We're not in the water with them as much. We're more out of the water on the pool deck, just because then we can keep those numbers within the range they have to fall under.
Interesting. I just have one short question then. Is there a next stage, or at some point in time are we going to be reviewing the regulations, or
So Dawn's
is there a
constantly,
plan, or?
yeah, Dawn's constantly looking at what we can do, where we can go, how much we can move. We're still restricted by that guidance in sport return document. So there are restrictions still in there that we have to adhere to. The social distancing is the big one. Social distancing still within the pool itself. So right there, for as far as lane swim, we're restricted with the numbers we can have just because of that social distance component. But we're definitely looking at ways to do lessons, different ways we can do lessons, get the schools to come in and start kind of ramping up to where we used to be, or as close as we can to that. So.
Yeah, well, it's an ongoing battle anymore. Okay, no further questions? Thank you, Trish.
Okay, now I'm done. Maybe.
Would someone like to, do you need a motion to accept that report?
Your worship, I talked a lot, so I'll move that we accept that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates.
This thing is,
All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Speed signs update.
Vanessa, do you want to pull them up? So we recently purchased 2 new speed signs and identified 15 locations which are able to accept those speed signs. The speed signs themselves provide us lots of information. So on a real-time basis, it's web-based, so we can log in. If a speeder is reported, we can actually identify whether they were actually, or there was a speeding vehicle past that camera at any one time. Currently, the setup for hourly updates, and it generates a weekly report. That weekly report gives us average speed, number of speeders, volume of traffic, and percentage of people potentially speeding it. And that's based upon the criteria that we set for that location. The choice of the locations came on a risk basis, so in and around the school zones, skate park, playground areas, speed transition areas, so coming off Highway 54 onto Lakewood Drive, etc. The current plan is we're going to develop a policy where we rotate through those locations. Weekly seems to be the general piece that we have from other people using these signs. And the locations it's simple enough if we identify an area that is of concern based upon complaints, etc. We can move the signs relatively easily. It's just a preparation of a banding machine onto a post, and then we can install the sign and put it onto the software. Other good items that we've sort of picked up on already is the speeding times. So it actually gives us the times that we generate the most speeders at different locations. So that will allow us to be more strategic in enforcement side of it, of when the best time to carry out enforcement in those areas are. Do note though that the speed signs themselves, as probably all of us know, that it does change our habits by seeing that flashing speed sign. It's estimated that you will get 80% compliance because people see that, because it creates that feedback loop to them as a driver, and most of us want to be compliant, and therefore once we see that and go, oops, I'm doing 10 over, I'll slow down so the sign's not flashing at us. We can put the signs in a covert mode, so basically they're still recording data but there's no flashing signal, so we can compare when it's flashing to when it's not flashing and what level of compliance we're getting for those pieces. So yeah, if you have any questions on that.
Mayor Romaine through to Manager Leith. I would be very interested to see the difference between when it's blank versus flashing. I think it's good to create awareness, of course, but just to see the difference. There was a question whether they do counting or not, and I wasn't sure if we'd answered that question or not, but
Your Worship, through to Councillor Carrott. Yes, they do count volume of traffic on a daily basis.
Perfect. Thank you.
So does it record, can you take off like a daily report of all the activities, counts,
Your Worship, yeah, we can
high speed?
daily, weekly, we can customise the reports as we see fit, depending on what we're looking for.
Yeah. Good. Be good information.
Yeah, yes, your worship. Was there an approximate cost per sign, and is there, obviously they're not something that will be obsolete in 6 months' time. We could potentially build off of our 2 to maybe more if we deem necessary.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Hill. Yeah, it's definitely a growable piece. It's web-based. We can add as many cameras to the program as we see fit. Cost per camera is around $4,500. If we were looking to make them permanent signs, as in putting them in strategic locations on a permanent basis, we would probably increase the cost by about $2,000 because we would make them solar. Currently, the battery operated.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Bates.
yes, your worship. So I did notice the one over by Dodds Lake. That's one of them, I assume. Don't know where the other ones are. So it is battery operated. I thought maybe full solar charge through the face of it or something. The other thing is, yeah, I think your analysis of people seeing it and reacting are probably very correct. Of course, none of us knew they were going to happen, so the first time I saw that one was when I turned left and went down 56, which we had recent complaints. And yeah, totally aware when you start to see that thing flashing. That location on that one, you're either coming in from Lakewood Drive or from Hazelwood, and you aren't getting up to any speed other than when you see that. It'd be interesting to take that one after you've had it there for a while, move it down 56 somewhere and turn the flashing off and just see what's happening down where people can get up that speed. So that's just some comments.
Your Worship, I have one more question. So the sign that we had previously, our initial sign that's obviously not compatible whatsoever with what we have now. Is that correct? Like it's not compatible with the two new additional signs?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Hill, no, it's not compatible, but we still have the software and still download data from it, so it's still functional.
So it still is of value then?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if there's no further discussion or questions, would someone like to move that we accept Chief Wild's report? White.
I'll move that we accept Manager Lee's report information. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. All in favor of the motion? Carried. All right, item 3.3, elementary energy community benefit, Megan.
Okay, so looking to start a discussion with council as we start to develop a policy for how to allocate the funds that will be coming in through the environmental energy community benefit contribution. So as part of our agreement with Elemental regarding the Innisfail solar generation project, a memorandum of understanding was struck between the parties that will have Elemental provide $20,000 a year to the town to create a community benefit fund. So we will be getting the first payment in January, which will be a $10,000 payment as the facility went online halfway through 2020. So the fund is intended to be accessible to community members or organizations for the purposes or activities that directly benefit the community. The MOU further states that the town and Elemental will work together to structure and define management procedures for the process for how the funds are awarded. So we've had preliminary conversations with Elemental, and based on their feedback and some of their experiences in other communities where they have a similar arrangement, they've identified some of their priorities as well as some ideas that they would like us to consider. So in terms of the priority areas for them as a company, environmental and energy education, children and youth, arts and culture, emergency relief, and health and wellness have been identified as their sort of main priorities. And they are also very keen to be involved in that funding allocation process as well. So in addition, I've also had discussions with Karen on the sort of social side about where she sees some potential needs within the community where we could maybe utilize these funds to their greatest potential. Another consideration we wanted to look at is that we support what we can without too much overlap with our existing community grant funding and FCSS funding. So at this point, we're looking to recommend that a policy structure be established that supports the allocation of a portion of the funds directly to specific initiatives that we can undertake year after year, with the balance of the funds being open for applications from the wider community. Elemental, so with respect to the fixed allocation, Elemental has expressed a strong desire to directly support educational programs that support renewable energy, science, and technology. They've worked with a company called Relay Education. The website is on one of your tabs if you want. And they've worked with them in the past, and they bring in basically kits. The kids build like wind energy systems or solar cars or different types of programs like that. And they have actually transitioned their model with COVID to sort of a virtual type of setup where all of the kits would be shipped to the schools, and then they do an online program. So they've worked with this group before, and they would really like to see those efforts put in our community as well. So approximately $2,500 would cover the cost to bring this group in to present to, for example, all children in one grade. If there was, I don't know how many classes of grade 6s or something like that, that they could do this every year that they get to do one of those programs. One of the other areas that Karen had highlighted was a community subsidy for recreation, arts, and culture activities for youth. This is a program that could support underprivileged children and families for programs and activities related to arts, culture, music, recreation, and sport. For example, swim passes, summer camps, sports and art program registrations, library memberships. There's similar programs in quite a few of our neighboring communities. Penhold, Black Falls, Lacombe, they all have different programs where you can apply based on income thresholds to be able to either have reduced rates or to have subsidized access to either just town things, like it could be limited to the swimming pool and public skating, those types of things, or you can expand the program for private or other things as well. Karen also indicated that the seniors population, something similar would also be of great value, whether it's recreation programs or even vouchers for the handy van, something that could be looked at. So right now we're looking that we would allocate around 50% of that annual amount towards these fixed allocations that could be set up year over year, and then the balance of it being put out to an open allocation that would be available to charitable organizations, not-for-profits, and individuals or groups to help fund projects, special events, or initiatives, and that those would be submitted once a year and reviewed by a group that would include, we'll have to discuss what the makeup of that group would be, whether it's council and elemental and in administration, or if you would like to utilize one of your other existing boards, whether it's community services or FCSS or some of those other groups that we already have in place. So really right now looking for some thoughts and input on what you guys may like to see or what you could see as being the best use of these funds.
Okay, is there any comments or?
Your worship, through to Megan, we talked, I guess, early with probably before even elemental, about this fund and the potential of it being a larger community fund. Is that something that elemental would be in agreement with if their funds were, structured in the way that we know that this $20,000 belongs to elemental, but there's a larger community fund available as well?
I haven't had that specific conversation with them. I think they would be. They're definitely have expressed a lot more interest than the original group that came forward to us with the solar farm in terms of them being directly involved in the process, which has been nice. I think when we first started talking about this fund, it was sort of, well, we'll give it to you and let you guys figure out what to do with it. So I don't think that they would be opposed to it being a larger initiative, but they do, they're really keen on this education, getting into the schools, that part of the program, and just being being their sort of opportunity to reach out in the community.
You know, I think it's great what they're proposing. If we have maybe an opportunity to have an Innisfail Community Fund, maybe this is kind of that leap forward in that. So I wouldn't mind if you could ask them if they're interested in that. And I guess my only one thought would be around doing the same thing year after year. Having been with service clubs, and we were doing that with a particular organization year after year until finally we said, do you really need the money? And they said no, but thanks anyways. And so just to kind of keep that in the back of mind, I think what they're proposing is much different than that particular situation. But, you know, I think I always like to see some accountability and that kind of thing, as far as knowing that the money was spent where it's supposed to be spent. And I think with, is it FCSS or somebody, like over $1,000, don't we have to have some kind of an accountability report, or is it a couple of $1,000s or something? So,
And we can structure that all in the actual policy that, you know, if we want reporting, if we want, you know, certain advertising with projects. I did have a preliminary conversation with that Relay Energy, and they were very keen. They have programs for sort of middle school age as well as high school age, looking at either careers in green and renewable energy, those types of things. So you can adjust those programs for sure. And we did even talk about the opportunities for field trips out to the solar farm as well.
well, I think that the library in the past as well, I think they have a STEM package right
Yeah.
now, right? But in the past, like doing robotics and that kind of thing, and I mean, it's quite costly, those programs. And I was on a webinar last week with Economic Development Calgary, and it was on digital transformation. So it was extremely interesting. And at the end of it, I mean, they're projecting $18+ billion to be spent in Alberta by the end of 2022 in the area of digital transformation. And at the end of it, they asked the people that were on the call, one had started a law office, medical office, and then Nutrien was also on as well, so ag. And they were saying, like, what would your advice be? Somebody asked, what would your advice be to people with kids about areas to go into for education? Of course, STEM was one, but it was also the humanities, because they're needing people that know how to write, copyright, etc. And it's one thing to have the technical skills, but somebody also needs to have the written and communication skills. So yeah, I can forward you that webinar if you'd like to listen to it. It was quite fascinating.
Any other thoughts? Councillor
Yeah,
Kerr.
Mayor Remain through to Megan. I just want to reiterate what Councillor Barkley is saying, that accountability is key for sure, and youth is. I don't know if you're looking for us to go into one of those, or if we're kind of looking at all 5 of those as a general that we can go to, or are we trying to make it more specific?
I think that's the general that we would go to, and that when we would put out the call for sort of open applications, that they be able to categorize
Sure.
themselves somehow into those. And then if you did end up where you were in a position of being oversubscribed, how you could prioritize
Right.
various things.
And then I also do want to add that I think that we already have the community standing group, that I don't think there's much sense in.
Well, we don't want to create a new group.
Right,
but-
when they're perfectly capable of, that's what they do, so.
Councillor Reber.
Through to Megan, I guess I kind of agree that would be a logical way, because I feel that it's important to have some public input, and that going through a board like that would get us that. I would want to make sure that we weren't just doing this as council and the elemental, that we need that element of public involvement is what I would like to make sure we get in there somehow.
Well, it's good advertising too, like, you know what I mean?
Oh, Councillor Bates.
Yes, Your Worship, through to Megan. So I agree with almost everything I've heard there. I certainly believe what you've drawn up as a model is a good way to start the elemental. You know, it's restricted by $20,000 at this point in time, so that looks like a good way. I do believe the community services group would be appropriate, personally. And then if we develop a policy that, you know, this portion is gonna go to these specifics that Elemental likes, like the education thing, I think you'd run that a lot of years before you ever had a problem with it becoming stale. But probably reserve the ability for council of the day if there's a new upstart of something, like Movers and Groovers was mentioned there. That thing started out of nothing, and so maybe there's an upstart in the future that council of the day should have the ability without having to apply, like because there isn't a group form that would apply on that mythical new thing's behalf. Council of the day could then say, yeah, we want to designate this, maybe get Elemental's buy-in, but that's my input. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? I think you're just looking for input from council right now. You're not looking for a cut and dried or anything yet.
No, we'll start, based on the input, we'll start working on a draft policy, so that early in the new year, we're ready, when the check shows up.
Okay, I guess we need a motion to indicate to staff or administration to continue in the pursuit of a policy for,
Yeah, that or as information, I think there's enough there, your
or is
worship.
that just as information for
Yeah.
them? Okay. Someone prepared to make that motion?
I so move, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. Thanks, Megan. I had this one extra item here I wanted to bring up. That I should have brought it at the last meeting and I forgot it, but CP has indicated that there will be no holiday train this year. And they're doing a virtual. How they're going to do that, I'm not sure, but they'll be communicating with us at a later stage, a virtual program of some sort. They did indicate very strongly that we will be back in 2021. So, but unfortunately this year, because of COVID-19, that no holiday train this year. But do you want to do the round table before in camera? Okay. Here's Donnie.
Thank you, your worship. Pretty well, since we had last met, is the findings of some of the aquatics discussions, and that's probably about it. My mind's gone pretty wild as to what the future of our aquatics may be in our community, and it really just comes down to what our appetite is for spending and what we're willing to tie up our community for future payments. Other than that, that's about all. Obviously, there's been a little bit of a freeze in our community, and it's been kind of a eye-opening for everybody. And yeah, that's about all from me. Thank you.
So I already talked about my visit to the sports facility in Cochrane. This week I have MPC, the Heliport discussion, and 13 ways. Through to Steve or somebody who does talk to CP, just curious if I noticed since it got cold, we've had almost no trains, and I'm wondering if they have a protocol where they have to let the rails and everything accustomed to the new temperature before they can load them up like they usually do with the non-stop trains.
I do not know that.
Well, next time you're talking to them, maybe.
We are,
See if you can stump them.
yeah, we definitely are in communication with them. We have been trying to get resolve in regards to the crossings, price, costing, the pedestrian costing, as well as the whistle sensation. So we've been reaching out, but we haven't been able to get any much response.
No, I just noticed literally in the last 3 or 4 days, there's been almost none. I don't know if you guys notice them here. Thank you. Well, no, I'd be curious to know if somebody else has seen a lot of trains in the last 3 or 4 days, because I haven't. I'm just curious, and it'd be interesting to just watch out here for the next day or two.
Councillor Garrett.
Yes, thank you. I guess we'll go on train watch. Just was very excited to see the new proposals or the proposals for the aquatic center. I think there's some exciting times coming. I attended the chamber meeting this morning as a business owner, and just want to give kudos to Councillor Barkley for she gave a very good report of what's going on in the town, and I just wanted to say I think she's doing a great job there.
Gold Star Day, awesome.
Taking it back.
No, I didn't have one, not for years. Yeah, so had a chamber meeting this morning, then same as Councillor Bates, have Heliport Wednesday and 13 Ways on Thursday, MPC tomorrow. And that's all for now, thank you.
I also attended the aquatic, how to spend our money. We haven't got the numbers yet, so we'll see where that goes. I have community services tomorrow, Heliport on Wednesday, and 13 Ways on Thursday, so this week will be a blur.
Yeah, it's going to be busy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Also, Heliport Engagement this week. I did attend the aquatic presentation last week, 13 Ways on Thursday, and also we have the Halloween Hop Public Library in the Historical Village on the 24th on Saturday. So hopefully it's a drive-through, so hopefully everybody can get out and see what that's all about. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I have anything besides what you've got in mind this week as well for a busy week with projects, but I don't think I really had anything. I know there was something I was going to bring up, but I might think of it later, but anyways.
Your Worship, can I just interrupt for a second? Because I just want to give kudos to Mayor Romaine for the YouTube that you did for recognizing Small Business Week.
Okay.
That's online, and also didn't mention that it is Small Business Week this week, and there's quite a few events going on. So Thursday afternoon, there's a small business or a business conference at the Legion. If anybody would like to go, you can phone the chamber to register or show up at the door. And then Wednesday evening is their AGM. And so they've got a few things going on this week. I'm sorry to interrupt. But
The kudos should go to Ken, he's my editor, because 3, 2, 1, about 8 or 10 times to get it right. So
You could have stuck with a few.
where were we? Anyways, and actually the other thing I was going to mention too is the dementia program that we did here mostly for the staff, for a friendly community, dementia-friendly community, was really quite interesting. I think I can vouch for our front-end staff that have to meet these people on a daily basis. They do a fantastic job of saying, Mrs. So-and-so, let's have a look at your bill here, and they don't understand something, and they'll really go out of their way to help them out. So that's what a dementia-friendly community is all about. So I think we've got a good start on it right here in the office, but it was interesting. Okay, I think that concludes the roundtable and agenda. If you'd like to move in camera.
I'll move that we move in camera.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barclay. All in favor? Carried. Take a minute break.